Okay.
Sweet. All right. So core training. Uh, it's a topic that people want a lot of answers to, but don't really want to put the right work into. You know what I mean? Like they're kind of it's one of those things, and I feel like in the fitness industry, and you could probably talk to it more, but it's one of those things where everyone wants a secret, but the secret kind of is there is no secret, right? Like I mean, you have to get to a certain body fat percentage probably to even see your abs, right? So you can sit there and
Yeah.
crunch all day, but if you have a giant layer of fat over it, I mean, there's no trick, right? Like you got to lose weight.
I haven't seen a trick. No, I haven't seen a
Right,
trick. No. I
right,
mean, I've been looking for tricks too, you know? Uh,
right. So it's always so the initial step's always going to be when someone comes into you and it's like, hey, I want to get abs. It's always going to be, I'm assuming your answer is you got to lose weight. I mean, that's got to be the standard for most people.
yeah, I usually give them a longer explanation of that because, when people come see me,
Right,
I really want
right,
them to, I really want them to trust me and believe me. So I tend to give kind of drawn out answers or information oftentimes when I don't even know if I need to. It's funny because I have a woman in there right now. I had this strange daydream in my head because I was telling her stuff, but she's super knowledgeable. She used to be a fitness trainer at Equinox, and her whole family's real fit. So and she's really up to date. Like she's kind of reminds me of you in some ways. She reads a lot on this, so she's smart. So I'll say stuff to her, and then today I was saying stuff, and I was thinking, um, I was thinking in my head, like, yeah, I don't even really need to probably say this to her at all. And then it occurred to me, I say this to everybody. I have a 10 and a 12-year-old that train with me. And I'll tell them stuff sometimes. And when I'm done, I'll catch myself. I'll be like, I don't think they gave a shit about post activation potentiation or anything, but I'm telling a 10-year-old, like I was listening to West
right.
Side Barbell yesterday on a podcast, and they were talking about how Louis Simmons would tell anybody this stuff, anybody that would listen, because he was so passionate. And I was like, man, I can understand that. But yeah, I'll
Right, right.
usually, what I find is when people ask me about abs, especially when they first come to train with me, is they think that you can spot reduce body fat, right? They think if I do abs, I'm going to melt fat off my abs and I'm going to see my abs. And I explain to them that spot reductions for the most part a myth. You might be able to spot enhance a little bit, but you're going to get abs in the gym from doing big compound movements. But like you said, you got to get your body fat lower. But I'll tell people, like, you probably better off. Well, you're not probably, you absolutely are better off doing stuff like sled pushes, deadlifts, squats, albeit if you're qualified to do them, big
Right.
movements, not little, crunches and shit like that. You're not going to see an obese person at the beach, fat everywhere with abs because he sat there and did crunches all day. I think they get it most of the time. Occasionally, I think that they still go on YouTube or whatnot and look for other people that just say what they want to hear, and not
Right.
just me. I had a guy the other day that I've been training for a while. He's gained at least 14 pounds of muscle because he's lost fat. That's just weight. He
Right.
lost fat. He benched 122. He benches 175. He deadlifted maybe 160, 170. He deadlifts 260. I mean, he went up a lot. Yet he still told
Right.
me what some guy on YouTube told him was the best exercises for chest. And so I'll have people still tell me all the time. I'm like, they don't believe me.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Um, right. To the spot reduction, have you found this is more of like a Poliquin thing with the biosig stuff? Do you think the high cortisol, how big of an impact does that have on like visceral stomach fat? Because that's one of the things they kind of sell with the bioprint or biosig, whatever it's called now.
I think that high cortisol liberates fat. Um, it's not the cortisol that's the problem. At least this is what I think. I don't know if I could prove this. I don't think it's the cortisol that's the problem. It's high cortisol over long time makes you have insulin problems. So I think it's the insulin that's the problem. I don't think cortisol is necessarily a problem, because you can take up like ephedrine would increase cortisol, but you'd lose fat because
Right.
it liberates fat. So I don't think it's the cortisol. But when I think of cortisol, what I think of is when I think of the biosig in the abs, what I think of is stress with gut issues and in insulin issues. I don't think of it as just like cortisol. I don't think that coffee is going to make you have body fat problems in your abs. So it's not necessarily the cortisol, I don't think.
Right. So then once you kind of get into core stuff, what are some of the core exercises that you kind of like doing for people?
Let me see. Can you still see me or no?
Yeah, I can see you.
You can see me? Okay.
Yeah.
Let me just share my screen with you anyway. This isn't super sexy, but it might be okay. So can you see my screen?
Yeah, I can.
So sometimes what I'll do when I write workout programs, I'll put a generic, I'll just put ab exercise, but then I have here instructions. I have pick an ab exercise you haven't done recently, alternating rotation, bracing / anti-rotation, and flexion might be wise. Here's a list of some we do. Then Palloff press and variations for anti-rotation, renegade row for bracing and anti-rotation, cable chop variations for rotation, ab wheel, body saw, hip flexor, monkey foot for lower abs and bracing, Garhammer raise variations, hanging leg raise, reverse squat for the lower abs and for flexion, for med ball pike up or a V up. Some people call it a V up, sprinter sit up, decline sit up. Those right there are the ones that we tend to do at my gym a lot.
And so you're rotating them every session. You're kind of just letting them pick. So you don't really like periodize it, I guess. It's just kind of pick one, and you probably got to work all of them anyway.
Yeah, I don't really periodize it. I haven't seen anything that's super helpful yet about like an order, a sequence, and how to do things. I think if you're if you're an athlete and you're in a rotational sport, I mean, that might change some things. And if you're not an athlete and you just want to look good aesthetically, at the beach or with your shirt off, that potentially could change some things as well. I find that ab exercises, people adapt to them rather quickly. And what I use predominantly to determine that is soreness. So I do like getting people's abs sore. I don't want them to feel like a complete train wreck, but I do like them to get a little bit sore. I find that getting your abs sore, I mean, almost like getting any muscle sore, I think it's a good thing. But with the abs, what I like about that also psychologically, I think people, when they feel their abs sore, they're a little bit more conscious of their midsection. And I feel like there might be a benefit to them watching what they eat more if they're more aware of that area. That's just kind of a theory of mine, but I base off adaptation mostly off of soreness per se, not just off of progressive overload. So I like to rotate ab exercises a lot. So that's why I made it like with that list. So at my gym, what I'll do is I'll find out what ab exercises I think you're qualified to do, because you have good form, right? You can do them well. I'm not worried about bad form and you hurting your back or something like that. And then I'll put that in and I'll help them choose ab exercises. So they'll come to it and we'll choose it and then we'll change it on the fly. So I got like, I pulled this up in case you wanted to see, like, and we'll mess around with stuff here too. Like, here's this guy doing a landmine rotation, right? After could you see that? Can you see that?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. After he did that, I had him do a med ball slam. Now, let me say something real fast because I'm showing you this. A lot of times what I'll do for a core, unless it's their erectors, I think a lot of people have weak erectors. I'm not, I don't always think people have weak abs. And we can talk about that in a minute because testing that can be a good conversation. But what I do sometimes with ab exercises, I throw them in as fillers. If you have somebody you're training for like 45 minutes to an hour and 15 minutes, they're not always going to be able to tolerate all compound movements. They it's just too hard on their body. Whether it's their nervous system or their work capacity. And frankly, they just don't need that much volume anyway. You're not going to write a whole workout where somebody's just doing a compound movement most of the time for regular people. Perhaps there's some exceptions to that, and there's other coaches who've been able to do that. If you have like a freak or a freaking, somebody's been in the weight room forever and they're an Olympic lifter, perhaps. But the people that I see, that aren't athletes, they don't need that. Plus, people train with me 3 to 4 times a week, so I look at what they've done as a whole for the week as a whole for overall volume. So I'll throw those in as fillers if that makes sense. But we just been doing this lately. This is something I messed around with a little bit at my gym in Chicago, and I haven't been doing this with anybody. But this guy, despite him being big and could definitely stand to use some body fat, he doesn't really listen to me at all. I just find he listens to me about magnesium now, and that's a funny story. But he is actually quite athletic for being a bigger guy, and so I can actually do a lot of stuff with him. He just doesn't listen to me about diet that much. Here's me. I'm just doing I'm doing a rotation, messing around. Here's a guy this guy's trains with me just because he loves to train but he does golf, but not serious. Like he's not like a high level amateur or a pro. So we do some rotation with him for golf. So I like having him do rotational exercise. Here's another guy doing a body saw. I love this exercise. It's deceptively very, very hard. I don't know if this looks easy. You push back as far as you can without your lower back or hips dipping towards the floor. The monkey foot hip flexor. I find that if you squeeze when you come up on kind of like the side where you're at, you really do, you get a good abdominal workout with this thing, this one right
kind
here.
of like a single leg Garheimer.
What's that? What'd you say?
It's kind of like a single leg Garheimer.
Right. Yeah. I love that one. A lot of people don't like the monkey foot though. I don't think it feels so great on their hips more than anything is what I think. Then, for a second at the bottom. He's rocking a little too much. I was just saying something to him about it, but just a leg lift for the lower abs. Here's a med ball pike up. I like these a lot. Here's me doing a bent knee, trying to get my knees as high as I can. Here's the same guy that was rocking, doing it. The other one, he was just holding on to a bar. The ab wheel, I like the ab wheel a lot.
Classic,
right? Sit up, with the med ball. I like these. It does bother some people's backs, but here's this guy. He's another guy doing a body saw, another guy doing a sled push behind him. Here's a soccer player doing that rotational exercise. The rotational exercises are the hardest for me to find really good ones that I absolutely love. I've talked to you about that before. That's why one reason why I want that Proteus motion so bad. Here's me doing the monkey foot hip flexor. Here's a QL, muscle that a lot of people don't train right here, right?
Right.
Here's just a cable chop. The last thing she needs to do is this. It's probably not that helpful. But the thing is she had a horrible work capacity. She could not tolerate a lot of volume. She, no clue why, but so some people are going to get more fillers than other people. if she had, she could recover well and she could tolerate, harder stuff, I probably would never give her that, to be honest with you, I'll try things with
Right.
some people though, and later on, sometimes I'll just, say, I don't know, we're not going to do that again. Here's the old gym, Chicago. Here's like, it's kind of a Garhammer raise that I like to do before hanging,
Yeah.
It's actually, I love that one.
So do I.
This is a great ab exercise that nobody even thinks of, right? And so notice he has ankle weights on, right? And he's doing, I think he did 8 sets of 3 reps. And the reason why it's so good is because when you put those weights on your ankles and it's heavy, your center of mass is your abs. So your abs end up contracting really hard to pull you up. And the thing is you're not even thinking about your abs because you're thinking about doing a pull up, but your abs end up being smoked the next day.
Yeah.
Here's another guy back in the Chicago doing the sit up with a med ball. That we just got that bench. So I was having a lot of people do stuff like that because I never had a decline. And here's another guy doing a body saw back in Chicago as well. And that's a killer exercise. But most of the time for the core, according to Cal Dietz, the core, most people are weak in your erectors. And if you do too much core work, I made a note of it. Let me see if I can find it. I'll read it verbatim, okay? Because I'm not.
Yeah, I was gonna say, how are you testing, or how are you kind of knowing that someone's erectors are weak and their core probably isn't the weak link?
Well, I would say if you have somebody deadlift or squat and you see them round their back, they probably have weak erectors. And I think if you can tell a lot from their posture too, you can tell a lot if the hypertrophy on the sides of their spine. It just seems like everybody has, regular people have weak erectors. They're sitting all day. Most people never train that muscle too, because I don't think that they realize there's even muscles there, to be honest with you. And they're probably worried about their backs too. So, it's crazy. But so here's what Cal Dietz had said recently in a YouTube video. So I wrote some stuff down. He said, people forget that the core is connected to the hips, and the hips are the foundation for everything. He said core bracing actually screws up the muscle patterns and sequencing of how muscles should fire, right? He said you need to squeeze your glutes first, and then the right pattern comes into place, and then you work your ab muscles. So he's saying squeeze your glutes, then train your ab muscles. Don't brace your ab muscles. Let's see what else he said. When people talk about the core, they're actually talking about the spinal erectors, whether they know it or not. And these only function correctly if the hip pattern fires in the correct sequence. 90% of the time, the glute med isn't working correctly because of an arch problem with the foot. And all that, the foot and the glutes and the hips can all impact the core. Another thing that I heard, I didn't hear this from Cal Dietz. I don't remember where I heard it, but Cal Dietz has talked about it. So the core should contract or fire in sports when it needs to. It's almost like your brain knows. So like if you threw me a football and I had to jump up and catch the football, my core would probably contract so I don't go flying back. You know what I mean?
Right.
So basically, what I heard a long time ago, and I don't remember who said it, was the core is a force transducer. It's not a force producer. So it just contracts to brace you to transfer energy from your lower body up the kinetic chain, or from the upper body down the kinetic chain. I think that that makes a lot of sense. And I remember Eric Cressy saying, and this was pretty profound, in why I have issues right now with what I do for rotational exercises. He said, in a rotational sport, rotation is king if you can rotate. So these were some issues that I had. So another thing, Proteus Motion, they did a lot of studies with their device and with the coaches that have one, and they said for rotational strength, they said they analyzed 616 performance tests comprised of 52,360 reps and more than 1 million data points that found that the core was the weakest region of the body for athletes with rotational movements. Most people are always doing things in the sagittal plane, never in the frontal plane, or not a lot, and not in a multi-planar rotation. And even when I watch a lot of coaches, coaches that I think are pretty good, maybe not great in my opinion, but somebody could definitely say that about me too. So I just don't see a lot of rotational training, and I don't see frontal training, and I'm guilty of this as well. I am really bad when it comes to frontal plane stuff, man. So today I was showing the same girl I mentioned earlier, maybe we're going to try a frontal plane leg exercise on the K box. But yeah, I'm really unsatisfied with what I'm doing at the gym in regards to rotational core stuff, you know?
Yeah. Do you, how deep do you get into like ab muscles being fast twitch versus slow twitch versus high reps versus low reps? Or again, with the abs, do you just kind of mix it up? Like it's some weeks it's low reps and kind of more sets. Some weeks it's, 25, 50 reps, just burning like crazy.
Most of the time I have kind of a bias with rep ranges with a lot of things. And my probably biggest bias rep range wise is probably like 6 to 20, honestly. It doesn't necessarily, I certainly don't think that anything less than 6 is a waste of time. And I don't know how I feel about over 20, frankly. I guess it would depend on the exercise, but that's my bias. And I think maybe there might be a waste of time with super high reps. I don't do super high reps. I kind of treat the abs like every other muscle group. But I kind of bias the my hypertrophy range almost like an accessory exercise for abs, if that makes sense.
Yeah, for sure. And I know you said you haven't really found a core exercise you really like, but are there kind of staples that you use? Like I mean, the harness one probably is one of them.
As far as rotation,
Yeah.
um, well, the ones that I use, I'm messing around with different cable chops right now because I find that I made a comment years ago on Facebook that people develop habits in the weight room, and do you know who Sean Phillips is?
I know the name, yeah.
He's Bill Phillips' younger brother. They own Muscle Media 2000, and they own EAS, the supplement line.
Right.
He commented on it and liked what I said. That really made me I felt pretty proud about that because that guy's, I'm sure a multi-millionaire.
Right.
And so, but and then what I just said, that's true. And so there's a whole bunch of exercises I'll see that either, I mean, anywhere I could see them on YouTube, Instagram, or I see them from coaches that I like, and some that I haven't put into my arsenal. And so then what I'll do is I'll try them, and if I like them, we keep them. The thing is at the same time though, I don't want like 100 ab exercises, because I think if you have too many exercises for any muscle, it ends up becoming a problem. Because I mean, how often are you going to rotate through 100?
Right.
So I don't think that's not what I'm looking for. I'm looking for something that solves a problem, or I like better than what I'm currently doing. So we're doing cable chops. This is just one of them. Another one that I'm messing around with is where it's high and you're chopping down low from a half kneeling position. I just don't have a video for that. This rotational sling, I do like it, but this one is on the K pulley. But when you also do it, let me see if I have a video. All right, here's him doing it on that. I don't have a video, but if you put it on a regular cable that doesn't pull back on you like the K-Poly. It's got a different feel. I like both. So what I'll have people do sometimes is we'll try them both and I'll see what they like better. And doesn't mean we won't ever do the other one, but sometimes I'll give people what they like also. Because there's a dilemma sometimes with training people is you can't feel what people feel. Like you're going to base things off of, you know, your experience from science, from observation, but sometimes what they say, I do listen. So it does have some weight with me. So let's say I have this kid right here on this video, right? Let's say he does this and then he tries it on a regular cable and he likes the cable better. We'll do the cable, but it doesn't mean we're never coming back to this. Sometimes it's just a proficiency thing too. People get more proficient or more coordinated in a lift. And then as they get stronger and more coordinated and proficient, you actually see that in other lifts kind of transfer over it as well. So that happens.
I was just thinking now, like with sports like baseball and golf, do you ever go sort of, I wouldn't say max rotation, but like, do you ever go reps of or sets of like three or like a cluster where it's kind of you're going really heavy, you're doing one rep, kind of resting, like in a baseball swing, right? Like you swing, you probably have 10 seconds before the next pitch comes. Actually, it's probably 30 seconds, and then another kind of max effort swing. I didn't know if you ever went kind of max effort ish for rotational power stuff with cables in the K box.
No, but that's a good point. And that's kind of like what I'm saying. Like that's something that after you just said that, I absolutely would and try it and see, because I think it's a great idea. It's just embarrassing, I guess, that the fact is that you could name like 5 things that I think are awesome ideas that I still haven't done. And I've been doing this a long time. I think it's partially because, like I said, you get a bias or it's like chess after, like, what did Bobby Fischer say? After like 4 moves, there's like 500 million things you can do. And that's how it is in the weight room sometimes, right? You got all these things that you can do. And I'll see things sometimes and I'll be like, oh my God, how did I forget about that? I used to love doing that and I completely forgot. So I'll keep notes of stuff sometimes because that's happened more times than I'd like to admit.
Yeah,
No,
and I was just kind of spitballing in the moment of like, man, to do like kind of a not a max. It'd be like maybe a 3 rep max rotational kind of exercise, because then you can really probably see how in sync someone is with their rotational power, right? Like you could probably see like, wow, his hips are a little behind, or his, you know what I mean? Like something would
yeah,
be a little off that you'd be able to
yeah,
tell.
yeah. I
And
don't have it.
to work on max rotational power. I mean, that again for golfers and
Oh yeah.
baseball players, hockey players. I mean, even fighters, right? Like punching, you have to have some rotational power.
Yeah. I don't have it on the rotational sling, but like right, let me see, is this it? No, that's not it. Let me show you. This is nowhere near what the Proteus Motion can do, the K-Poly, but it is cool for what I have because it can measure power output. I just haven't done it with the core, which is I feel really dumb saying that. Because I mean, my God, why not, right? I don't have a
Right.
good answer, but I'm looking for it real fast. But I had this kid, he had really, it seemed like he had weak adductors. Every time he would deadlift, I'd see his knee cave in, and I don't think it was his VMO. So I did the K pulley with his adductors. That's not it. That's not it. It's a really short video. Oh no, it's weird. I can't find it. No, that's not it. How long do we have? We've got 9 minutes. Sorry. Oh, for
Right.
some reason, I don't know where it went. Yeah, I don't know where it went, but I had that I could do that 100% with the rotational sling, and I think I'm going to. I'm going to film that too. I'm going to send you that. I have
Yeah,
messed
that's
around with some baseball stuff on that. where people were holding something, and I liked it. I thought it was cool, you know. God, I wish
Yeah.
I could
Well,
find
when
that.
you said about that kid having something with his adductor, I remember going kind of heavy on the cable for rotational stuff, and I could kind of feel it in my groin, like in my kind of adductor area. So I kind of started working on it myself. But it'd be a good test of like, especially if you kind of trust your athlete to be like, hey, where do you kind of feel, does something feel off, right? Where you kind of
Yeah,
know like when he rotates with a lot of power, he kind of feels it in his groin or in his shoulder, or I mean whatever.
yeah, yeah. Well, check this out. Can you see this? So,
Yeah.
can you see my screen still?
Yeah, I can see it.
Can you see this guy right here?
I can see like some sort of, it's like yeah, I can see it now.
Dude with
Yeah.
the ball in between his legs?
Yeah, yeah.
All right, hold on a minute. Let me
This
play.
works on improving rotational energy transfer from the ground to your hands, thus decreasing the contribution from the hips and increasing the contribution from the torso. Give this move a shot and let us know what you think. Up level your.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty cool. He's using the Proteus here, and it's like he's squeezing the Swiss ball between his legs. I don't know if that's going to help with his adductors too, but I thought that was cool. So the reason why I'm showing you that is because that's like what I'm saying is when I see something I think that is cool, I like it could be valuable or anything, I'll do exactly that. I'll save it and I'll see how I can like get it into my workout program, if that makes any sense. To
Yeah.
keep learning, obviously to keep learning like we should do. But I think I might have the thing right here. Let's see. Maybe not, maybe not. I thought I had that video. Yeah, here it is. Like look.
840, 760, 820, 830, 910, 990, 920, 1020, 1190, 1200, 1000.
See what I'm saying? So I'll have to do that
Yeah.
with the rotational thing. It's yeah, I haven't done that yet. So retarded, dude.
Yeah. Yeah, that'd be good. It'd be good information to have.
Yeah, I have well, I mentioned the other day when we did our last one of these, I have that guy in the Seattle area who's an MMA athlete. I wish he had stuff for rotation, to train rotation at his disposal. He really doesn't have a cable. He doesn't really have any pulleys, cables, whatever, same thing I know, but he didn't really have anything. And I'm like, oh, I wish we had something for him for that. But and like I said, also when we did our video on the Proteus motion, I'm still agonizingly obsessed with that thing for rotation. Yeah, you see how many times I talk about this thing, right? It's insane. I was talking about it today. They have a
Right.
certification I'm trying to take. I don't even have one. I'm yeah.
Right.
This is agonizing, bro. I told you I'm not messing around, It's
Yeah.
but that's pretty much all I have for right now on the core. I mean, if you have anything, we can keep talking about it. We got about 5.5 more minutes before the Zoom thing cuts out.
No, man, that's great. I think letting me know about how the rotational power, how that ends up, because I think that's good. That'll be good, especially for athletes to see like just how it all syncs together, right? Like
Yeah.
when you kind of max it out to a degree where it's like where's the power like leaking from?
Yeah, I'll film it and I'll ask them and I'll share it with you as soon as I get it done. But yeah, you mentioned in the beginning of this too on how to test for like core strength. I don't have a good answer. I don't know. A lot of physical therapists, they think planks are good. Maybe if you're pathetically weak, but Charles Poliquin used to call it the bite the pillow exercise because it was
right.
It's gay as hell, right? So
right.
And then I heard Cal Dietz talking about how he had a female athlete. She could do a split squat with like 360 pounds on her back. For some reason, she got sent to physical therapy for something. And when she came back, they told her like that she had a weak core. And Cal Dietz was like pretty irritated by it, you could tell. But he said like something like, I think he called them and he's like, how did you test that? And they said with the plank or something really stupid. And he's like, how do you think that she has a weak core if she can split squat 360 pounds on her back for 6 reps and you think doing a plank for like 30 seconds is going to help? It's nonsense. So I don't have a good answer on how to test for the core. I just try to find
I would
stuff.
think the ab wheel, man. Like I think the ab wheel would be perfect. Like
That's
if you
actually,
can
yeah,
do
yeah.
X amount of reps, like if someone can do 5 reps really good, it's like, right, your core's pretty strong.
Yeah, no, you know what? And you're probably spot on, man, to be honest, because you will see like if they can't if they have weak core, when they roll out too much, you know, their hips and low back, they'll just fall to the floor. So that could be a good one. But see, here's the thing. I don't care a whole lot if they have a weak core or a strong core. Most of the time I throw it in for psychological reasons for them. And I throw in core work as a filler. Unless you're in a
Right.
sport. If you're in a sport and we're training you for a sport, that's different. I'm talking about regular people that aren't in a sport. They're just trying to lose body fat, get stronger, and just look and feel good. If you're in a sport and it's a rotational sport, I'm still thinking about like what Eric Cressy said and still trying to figure out all that stuff. Cause I don't have, you know, obviously I don't have all the answers, you know, and that's what keeps me loving this industry is like the fact that you never really get bored and there's always new stuff. There's always a bunch of stuff to learn. And that's awesome. It's a little bit painful sometimes too, because like you said in the very beginning of this, we're all looking for the tricks and quick fixes and like stuff. I mean, you know, I'm looking for it too. You know, we all are looking for it, you know.
Right. Right.
Yeah, that's pretty much all I got. We only have like 2 minutes left. You want
Perfect
to
timing.
end it there?
Yeah. Yeah, man. That was a good ending. That
Yeah, I think
little
that's
monologue from you.
absolutely. All right, so I'll stop the recording. I'm not sure how, but
There should be a little button that says stop, like in the corner.
yeah, I don't see it anymore. I think oh, here it is. Okay. All right, I'll